Today I will talk about three really important concepts. At the beginning of this video, I want to thank Guru Daval and the Ion World Foundation for sharing with me their amazing knowledge, which was so valuable and useful for the making of this video. The concepts I will present to you in this video came to my mind while I contemplated upon Kali Yantra given to me by Guru Daval and the Ion World Foundation. Due to their decision, Yantra will be shared with you, not by me, but later on by them, in a manner they see fit. But in the beginning, I kinda had to thank Guru Daval and the foundation out of the human decency. And now we will talk about three concepts of the video, which are the concept of prayer, the concept of Mother Goddess, and the concept of Tantra, and what is the part which sexuality plays in Tantra and tantric practice. Let's first talk about what is Tantra. Tantra means the wheel. And Tantra is usually word we use to describe certain spiritual technology through which we came in contact with certain energies, stimulate certain part of our energy bodies in order to follow our chosen path to Brahman or the All, transcend this world and reach liberation. There are many tantrics, many practitioners of spiritual technology who come in contact with certain energy to stimulate their energy centers and transcend this world. Many tantrics use sexuality, but many other tantrics don't. Sexuality is just one way of communing with the divine and activating your own energy body. And it is by far not the only one. Now, in this video, I will talk about my personal experience with application of sexuality in my own spiritual practice. And then I will explain to you how the Mother Goddess and the prayer fit into this practice. Just give me enough time. So when I personally study and practice sexual mysticism, because there is no other way for me to call this practice, the following happens in my body. First, I feel enormous energy coming from the bottom of my legs into my genital area. And then that energy reaches somewhere up to my Ajna chakra, and then it goes back again into my sacred energy centers above the genitals, sacred energy center above the genitals, and then it goes again into the root chakra, and then it goes again into sacred chakra above the genitals. And then what happens is as I keep stimulating myself, before I go to the climax, everything kinda turns black and dark. And then all of a sudden I wake up from the darkness and the experience is over. So the energy first goes from the bottom of my legs to my root center, then from my root center to my third eye, then from my third eye to the sacred center, then from the sacred center to the root center, then from the root center to the sacred center again, and then I go into darkness, into dark state of consciousness, and I see only darkness, and then the experience is over. So I never before I started practicing work with chakras and tantric techniques of Abhichara school, work with negative entities, and also before I started working with sexual spirits from Western esoteric tradition, I kinda didn't had those energetic experiences during my sexual activities. It was simply a carnal endeavor. But now, honestly, I am more concerned with energetic aspect of this. I'm kinda trying to understand what is happening. And before I started working with spirits, I never had energy coming up to my forehead during those experiences. So it started happening when I started practicing spirituality, really. There is one really important thing with this sexual mysticism, and that's the fact that it is really risky. It needs to be performed in extremely controlled environment with an extreme concentration, otherwise it will just be the waste of vital energy. In my experience, if you travel the left-hand path to Brahman, which means if you work with negative entities, there is no reason why you shouldn't orgasm. However, if you work with lokas, if you work with positive entities, some of them will demand brahmacharya or abstinence, and in that case you kinda need to restrain from orgasm. You can experiment with that energy, but you should definitely restrain from orgasm, according to some right hand path schools. However, I am not member of right hand path schools, and I really do not know what is their perspective. I read some literature and talked to some practitioners, but that's it. So, in general, when one performs acts of sexual mysticism in order to stimulate energy center, what you kinda need to do is, once that energy starts moving through your body, you should kinda stop stimulating yourself and direct that energy into the center you want to stimulate. And that's kinda how I do it. So I simply come to the point in which energy is rising to my third eye, and then I stop stimulating myself, and then I consciously direct that energy towards the third eye, for example, if I want to stimulate the third eye with it. If I want to stimulate some other center, I just wait to the phase in which that center is stimulated, and then I stop touching myself and focus on directing that energy towards the center even more. So I kinda explained to you how I do it. Also, in order to do this practice, one needs to kinda work with gods daily and recite the mantras and do the meditations. This is really demanding practice. Beginners can do it if they really want to, but I definitely advise caution, and I advise dedication. I am not trying to gatekeep, but please keep your practices as concealed as possible. Do not boast with them, and also work on them with utmost dedication. This is not game, this is not a joke, this is really serious. And everybody can try this, but everybody needs to know that this is not something which should be taken lightly. So I consider those techniques to be like sword, like gun. Everybody should have a sword, everybody should have a gun. We all have a right to exercise our own power and to evolve on our spiritual paths. And nobody should deny this from us, but we should understand that spiritual practice takes devotion, dedication, and certain risks. It is not all roses and flowers. There are many hardships on the spiritual path. Now, once we had discussion about sexual sorcery in Tantra, we will also have discussion about one another thing, which is prayer. I will kinda publish my own prayers to let it soon, but I also pray to Kali Ma daily. Sometimes I use mantras, sometimes I use just my own words. I try to have Kali Yantra drawn every time I pray to the Devi, so it makes my experience more powerful, more potent. Now, my experience is that before calling Kali, one should call another spirits from the tantric abhichara tradition. If you go to her via abhichara tantric route, if you go to her through the left hand path, which means that if you go to her through the lower worlds, you need to kind of summon another demonic entities from the Hindu pantheon, such as asuras, rakashas, pretas, and bhuts before you go to Kali. Because those previous experiences with those previous entities actually prepare you from the energy of the Kali, which will come from the Kali Yantra to you, because Kali Yantra is a really powerful tool and it is really something which, when activated, changes the energy resonance of entire room. So let's return to the main topic of this part of the video. What is prayer? The prayer is simply this: bowing down to something higher than yourself, so that that higher energy can flow through you and express itself truly within you. That's the prayer. The prayer is not when you ask for something. That is not the purpose of the prayer. The purpose of the prayer is to remove your own self, and you let the essence of the Deva, the essence of the deity, to fill you with his energy, so you can reach that exalted state. And when you reach that union with the divine through prayer, when you have that energy of Deva flowing through you, then in that exalted state you can ask for some blessing corresponding to the nature of the deity. So let me give you an example. I pray to Kali. Sometimes I use mantras, sometimes I use my own words. I draw the yantra, I glaze into it, it started radiating energy, and then I start praying. What happens then is, from the yantra, kind of energy goes up in the air, and then I feel energy from the bottom of my feet coming into me. I feel dark feminine energy coming into me, and I simply repeat the prayer or the mantra, and energy keeps coming, and I do not focus on mantra repetition. I focus on feeling. I focus on that energy coming, and I let it coming even more. until I reached that exalted state of consciousness. And then I asked Kali for a blessing. And blessing was to find certain information as well as to reveal me and relieve me of physical pain I was suffering at the time. And it really worked. It really removed the pain and information keeps coming to me. So that's my experience with prayer, and that's my advice how you should pray. Now, this is only my opinion. This is not anything which is written in stone. This is just my experience with prayer. So, you pray in this manner. You draw the yantra of the spirit or the sigil of the spirit you are trying to pray to. You activate it, and then when the sigil is activated, you will start praying. And you do not focus on requests. You do not focus on the end result. You simply give praise to that force higher than yourself. You ask for nothing. And as you give praise, as you pray, as you give that praise to the spirit, the energy of the spirit will start flowing through you more and more. And focus on that flow and keep praising and keep praying. Keep doing it over and over and let that energy overcome you. And once that you reach that exalted state, union with the divine, then you can give requests. Then you can give your wishes to the deity, and deity will almost certainly fulfill those wishes, because you reached communion with that force. You removed your own limited self and united with that aspect of the divine, and that union will reach your goal. And the last thing I wanted to talk about in this video, last but not least in this video, we will talk about concept of Mother Goddess, the concept of the divine feminine from which Kali originates. You see, to the Western mind, to the Western spiritual, philosophical and scientific psyche, the idea of one divine feminine is expressing itself in so many different forms, yet still being more or less one and the same, is confusing. Let me give you an example. So you have Hindu myth. In Hindu myth, you have Shiva who married Parvati, and Parvati Devi is having multiple aspects. Durga, Kali, and many other forms. And all of those forms are separate goddesses, yet they are all one and the same, but they are also separate from one another. How it is the case? Well, my understanding is limited, so I will probably make a mistake here. I will simply give my understanding, my limited understanding of this, how this functions. So imagine one great sea, and then you have multiple bottles of water and glasses of water, and they are all containers from the same water from that sea. It's all same water, just with different forms. It's same water in different shape. So imagine the great sea being the mother goddess, and then all of those smaller goddesses being simply glasses of water, that same energy of the goddess in different form with different name. And those are all separate glasses of water, and from a glass to a glass, taste can be quite different. Some glasses of water are flavored in this way, some glasses of water are flavored in that way, but it's all still the same water. It's all still the energy of the same mother goddess, of the same primordial feminine. So all of those aspects of goddess Parvati, Kali, Durga, all of them, they are all separate goddesses, but they are also all the same, because they are simply different glasses in which the same water is stored. So that's my understanding of this concept of the mother goddess, which is of course limited. And I will talk about my experience of working with Kali in more detail. This video was kinda just the introduction to explain this work, to explain my opinions about tantric sexual sorcery, mother goddess and Kali herself. And also I wanted to thank Ayan World Foundation for helping me. And see you tomorrow and talk to you next time.